oral cancer. So these are the two most important things why I chose oral cancer over other cancers. Now if you look at the WHO data and the incidence of oral cancer, they say from 2020 to 2040, there will be a 50% rise in the cases of oral cancer all over the world. And the projected incidence of oral cancer has been estimated to be around 1 in 60 people. So there will be 50% rise in the incidence in the next 20 years. And 1 in 60 people will be affected by this cancer.
1 in 60 means in general or the particular age group?
In general, all age groups, all combined. We'll come to that age thing also. If you look at our own data, Globocon data, if you see, oral cancer forms the major bulk of cancers when it comes to males. And in females, oral cancer is number 3 after breast and cervical and uterine combined together. Now we looked at our own data of 3 years and we found, if you see this head and neck cancers, almost 60% of our cases which presented in 3 years were head and neck cancers. And of this 60% of head and neck cancer, 80% were oral cancers. So if you put all the cancers together, head and neck would top the list in all the regional cancer centers in India. You know, who have a OPD of say more than 500 plus every day. So again, this is our own data. Now we come to the preventable part. We looked at our own data of almost 1800 patients and we found 1600, almost 1600 patients had some form of habits. Maximum of these patients, almost 1000 patients had the habit of chewing tobacco. And when we combine, smoking with chewing tobacco, smoking with alcohol, alcohol and chewing tobacco, almost 1600 patients had this in combination also. 200 patients had no habits. This is our own data.
I am just asking for curiosity. The way there is a passive smoking, is there in term like passive tobacco, where the husband is chewing, sorry to say, but the husband is chewing every hour and subjecting other partners. Is there in term like passive?
No. Because whatever, once you chew tobacco, it is a local reaction which happens. It is not something which is, when you compare it.
Yes, sir, my point is some amount of saliva goes to the female part.
No, there is nothing as passive this thing.
There is no term like passive.
Passive smoking is just one. Passive
Yes, tobacco is. But
So just curiosity, I guess.
correct. But the thing is, see, chewed tobacco, why it is so much prevalent is only because it is something which is accepted by the society. Still, in India, to smoke a cigarette or a bidi in front of your parents or family is considered to be this thing. But a chewed tobacco, pan masala pouch, the husband will share with the wife, the son will share it with the father. So that thing is very common. So that is why this chewed tobacco thing and the incidence and the prevalence is very high. So in this overview, we will
Yes,
just.
but then other form of tobacco like padiki is very common with the Korean also.
Yes.
With different type of Vimal is almost females are
So
heavy.
females, if you see the graph of rise in oral cancer and lip cancers amongst female, it is going up.
Yes.
It is going up.
Very
And if you
catchy and
go to northeast, it is very common. It is very common. The use of, they don't use this padiki and this thing. They use tobacco in raw form. So in this overview, we will just go through the clinical presentation, the staging, the importance of depth of invasion, imaging, the factors which affect the treatment decisions, the treatment part per se of oral cancer, adjuvant treatment, some clinical cases and some 2 or 3 slides about the research advances. So if you see this, most of the tumors would present with ulcers over the tongue. Ulcer can be exophytic, which you can see here, or endophytic. Exophytic tumors are good tumors because there is less chance that you will resect it incompletely, and the outcomes are also better. Given an endophytic tumor goes within the substance of the tongue, so chances of an incomplete resection are more, and the outcomes are also worse. The other
Before that, see, to general physician, most of the patients present with leukoplakia, oral leukoplakia, or maybe some mucous fibrosis. So how frequently those patients should be followed up for the maybe carcinoma in situ like that, or when to investigate such kind of patient?
So, as clinicians, as oncosurgeons, one is a leukoplakia and another is submucous fibrosis. Now, these two are completely different etiology and terms. If you say leukoplakia, it is a pre-malignant lesion. It is a pre-malignant lesion. And when you say submucous fibrosis, it is a pre-malignant condition. See, submucous fibrosis is never local. It is almost everywhere. If it involves the buccal mucosa, it will involve buccal mucosa, both sides, the palate and this thing. The worst thing about submucous fibrosis is it will lead to trismus or restricted mouth opening. So that is very difficult to treat. So most of the cases of submucous fibrosis, you will have to just counsel the patient, treat him medically, and then if it is very worse and the patient is not able to open the mouth, then surgical intervention would come. So that is the treatment of submucous fibrosis. When it comes to oral leukoplakia, as a clinician you have to differentiate it between oral leukoplakia and other conditions which are also there, pre-malignant lesions like erythroplakia and melanoplakia. So we leave apart erythroplakia and melanoplakia. If you talk about leukoplakia, there are two major varieties of leukoplakia. One is homogeneous and the another is just localized. Now there are 3-4 things which we see as a clinician when we advise a biopsy. Now this biopsy most of the time will be an excisional biopsy. We never do a punch biopsy, because if you do a punch biopsy, the report will always come as some inflammatory changes, non-malignant, or reports will be like this, dysplasia. So what we do is, the site of the leukoplakia is very important. Floor of the mouth leukoplakia, tongue leukoplakia have more chances of getting or transformed into malignancy than a buccal mucosa leukoplakia. So the site is very important. The size of the leukoplakia, more than 2 centimeters, yes, it is very likely it will go into a pre-malignant or into a carcinoma in situ or a well-differentiated CA. So the size of the leukoplakia and the other habits and all this clinical part is also very important. So when you have these things, clinical history, the findings or the clinical findings, then you go ahead and do this thing. But yes, as clinicians, whenever the leukoplakia we see, we usually would not follow up regularly. These patients mainly would require a good local wide excision per orally. It can be with a cold knife, a cautery or a laser. Each one will give a good result, but the result with laser is the best. So you just excise it completely, send it for a routine histopath and just wait for the report. Most of the times it will be leukoplakia or sometimes it will be CNC.
Suppose I find leukoplakia and patient asks me, what are the chances of my getting malignancy over a period of 5?
So again, I am telling you, if the leukoplakia is on the lateral tongue, the floor of the mouth, the posterior tongue size is more than 2 centimeters, the chances of this leukoplakia at that particular time to be malignant is around 20 to 25%.
20 to 20.
Yes.
Big
So
problem.
that is, yeah, so almost 1/4 of them. So चारमाती एक ने cancer होए, you know, it will not be a full blown cancer, but a CA and C2 or a well differentiated cancer.
Because as a physician, we are more interested to, I know ultimately after biopsy, we are going to refer to you.
But the thing is, see, most of the times when you do a biopsy, you will not get a definitive report. So again, you are at square one. So your clinical judgment and your clinical suspicion is the most important thing. So you don't biopsy it, you just excise it widely. Because if you have a 2 centimeter leukoplakia and you biopsy here, this might not be representative. You know, there will be cancer which is CNC2 just posterior to it or anterior to it. So better to excise it widely, send it for the histopath and just wait for the report. So leukoplakia, yes, the size of the leukoplakia, and you know, when you feel it, the texture also is very important. So that is about leukoplakia. Submucous fibrosis is a condition which you just can't help. He has to stop the habits, and once he stops the habit, it will take almost 10, 12, 15 years to, you know, revert back. So coming back to the clinical presentation, the second type of lesions which we see are buccal mucosa lesions, which come close to the alveolus or the mandible. Here, the most challenging thing is to remove the mandible and then to give an appropriate reconstruction. So these are the other clinical presentation. Now we come to the stage of oral cancer. So the success of the treatment in oral cancer is directly related to the stage of the tumor when clinically the patient presents to you. So the stage of the tumor is very important. Now we looked at our data of 3 years, and you can see almost 70% of our patients present to us in stage 3 and stage 4. So stage 3 and stage 4 are advanced cancers. Stage 1 and 2 are early stage cancers. So this T1 and T2 are early stage cancer. N0 is no neck nodes. T3 and T4 all combined are advanced stage cancers. So almost 70 to 75% of our patients would present in advanced stage to us. This is something which is a typical picture which we see in our OPD. So these patients would not fit in that T3, T4 also. They are you know, above T3 and T4. They are T10 and T8 tumors. You know, so these are also the patients who present with us. So these patients, the chances of success and the chances of them getting cured with cancer is almost zero. Almost zero. Now we come to very important one another thing is the depth of invasion. So when we talk about advanced cancers, the success of the treatment is very minimal or very less. But when we talk about early stage cancer, T1 cancer, T2 cancer, in that also, the depth of invasion is very important. Now, if you see, there are 3 groups which, this is the MSKCC, Memorial Sloan Kettering data, New York, 2 millimeter or less in thickness. Thickness, by thickness we mean is the third dimension of the tumor. One is the anteroposterior and another is right to left. The other is the third dimension. The thickness, if you measure the thickness. So this 2 millimeter or less, 2 to 8 and more than 8. So this is the tumor thickness. So this is how the thickness is measured. Now if you see, once you move from 2 millimeter to more than 8 millimeter, this is the risk of occult nodal metastasis. Occult nodal metastasis meaning clinically and radiologically the neck is free. There is no clinical or radiological evidence presence of a neck node. But when you do a neck dissection, if it is less than 2 centimeter, the chances of you getting a neck node positive in the final histopath is around 10%. But see this, once the tumor size, the depth of tumor or the thickness increases, the chances of getting a node, even if it is clinically and radiologically N0, is around 40%. Now, another more important thing is, see this, the percentage of patients dead of disease is, if it is 2 millimeter, you can expect a 5-year survival of around 95%. And look at this, if it is more than 8 millimeter, it drops to 60%. So what I am trying to convey is, sometimes the patients would ask you all, कि सर पहला स्टेज में आतु, बीजा स्टेज में आतु, तो पण पाछो आयो बीमार. Why it recurred? Why the patient didn't do well? It is only because of the depth of the tumor. So even if it is at T1 or T2, T1 by T1 I mean is the tumor is less than 2 centimeter in size. So if it is less than 2 centimeter in size, but the depth is say 1 centimeter, your chances of getting cured by disease is almost 60%. So it drops. So this is again very important. Even if it is an early stage oral cancer, if the depth is more, your chances of getting cured with disease is less. It is around 60%. We also looked at our own data. So when our depth of invasion is 4 millimeter, you start getting neck nodes. If it is less than 4 millimeter depth, you don't have any neck nodes. But once the depth starts increasing from 4 to 5, 6, 7 and 1 centimeter, the nodal metastasis starts. So with all tumors, if you see less than 1 centimeter, clinically and radiologically N0, we have around 25% of patients who will have a positive neck node once we do a neck dissection. So this is why the importance of neck dissection is very important. So now we go to the diagnosis and staging of cancer. History and clinical examination again is the most important thing. Biopsy is to prove whether it is cancer or something else. What we do usually is an incisional biopsy or a punch biopsy. So incisional biopsy is by the knife we take a wedge. Punch biopsy is by the punch forceps we punch and take a biopsy. So these are the two most common methods by which we do biopsy.
Which one is good?
Both. If you have an endophytic lesion, we would always do a wedge biopsy. If you have an exophytic lesion which is coming out, cauliflower, this thing, you take a punch biopsy. And again, if you are a bit confused or you are not very much sure, take multiple punches. That is good. Oral brush biopsy, cytology, all these are not useful because you have to see the type, the invasiveness of the tumor also. FNAC sometimes we do if the mouth opening is restricted, if there is submucous fibrosis along with the cancer. But if the patient has a neck node, we do a fine needle aspiration cytology from the node. Histological grading again is important because the degree of differentiation and the pattern of invasion are important when it comes to the prognosis of the patient. And then we stage the tumor. Before we stage the tumor, one is the pathology and the another is radiology. So radiological imaging mainly is done to know about the deep extent of the tumor, that is again the third dimension, and whether the bone or the mandible or the maxilla is involved or not. Again, radiological examination will give you some idea about the neck nodes also. CT scan is the choice of investigation when it comes to oral cancer. But we do MRI when we have to look at the medullary part of the mandible and the perimural invasion. So then we do MRI. Sometimes we would do both when we require a bony cut window also and a soft tissue imaging also. PET CT does not add any value over a CT or an MRI, but PET CT has definitive indications when you have bulky and large volume disease. So T3s, T4s with bulky neck nodes, lower neck nodes, you always get a PET CT done, but not in all cases. This is just for your information, the TNM, the tumor, node and metastasis. This is TNM staging which was given and proposed by the American Joint Committee for Cancer. So here you have, T1 less than 2, T2 is 2 to 4, T3 is more than 4 centimeter, and then T4A is when the surrounding soft tissues get involved. Again, node N0, N1, N2A, N2B, N2C, N3, these are all again nodal. So once you have an M0 and M1 is no distant mets and distant mets present. So once you have the imaging and the clinical findings, you stage the patient clinically. So this will be a clinical staging. Once you have the surgical or the histopath report, it is a pathological staging. So when we write in our notes, it is C, T1, T2, N0, M0. And then once the pathology comes, it is P, T2, N0, M0. So we just prefix C and P depending on the clinical or pathological staging. Now the factors affecting the choice of therapy, tumor factor, patient factor and the physician factors. As I told you before, site, size, location, multiplicity of the tumor, proximity to the bone, histology, grade, depth of invasion, tumor type, whether lymph nodes are present or not, and whether the patient had taken previous treatment or not, would all these would combine for the tumor factors. Patient factors: age, general medical condition, lifestyle, dental hygiene, occupation, acceptance, tolerance, compliance, socio-economic consideration, and time constraints are the patient factors which would affect the success or the survival. So physician factors, again, the expertise of surgery, expertise, the surgical part, radiotherapy, chemotherapy, and the supportive services like the dental, the prosthetics, the rehabilitation, other support services like psychosocial, pain, palliation, all these things are also important. Now we come to the treatment part of oral cancer. Surgery is the mainstay of therapy for oral cancer. Almost 70 to 80% of patients would come up for surgery first. Neck node
Whichever the stage of the disease.
most of the times, yes. Only T4B tumors which are involving the skull base, the carotid, would not be operable. But most of the times, only exception is lip tumors. When there is the lower lip tumor, even if it is T2 or T3 exophytic tumor involving the lip, those patients would go for radiotherapy. The only reason is the reconstruction of the lip after excision is very difficult even today. So nobody will tell you that competence, oral competence for lower lip tumor if you excise and do a reconstruction. So for that purpose, we give radiotherapy external beam for lower lip lesion so that the lip remains as it is and the competence also remains. But otherwise, other than lip, most of the tumors would be subjected to surgery followed by a treatment. Again, management of the neck is very vital and appropriate reconstruction for good functional and cosmetic outcomes. Stage 1 and 2, this is very important. Single modality treatment is effective and preferable. And stage 3 and 4, multimodality treatment or therapy is essential. When I say single modality, meaning if it is early stage, most of the patients would do away with a surgical incision. There will be no need to give adjuvant radiotherapy, but there are certain factors which we see when we read the histopathology report. If the depth is more, if there is a margin which is close or positive, if there is a small node which is positive, then we would always advise radiotherapy also. Again, all these decisions are not made by a single individual or a surgeon. It is a joint clinic decision. The radiotherapist, the chemotherapist all sit together and such cases are discussed and then the patient is subject.
Tumor what? Tumor what?
So then the patient would go for adjuvant therapy. Stage 3 and 4 multimodality therapy is important. Multimodality meaning surgery followed by radiotherapy is the usual pattern and plus or minus chemotherapy. Nowadays sometimes if it is bulky tumors, edema which is reaching up to the fibula, edema reaching up to the hyoid bone, we give chemotherapy also before surgery. And this chemotherapy is known as neoadjuvant chemotherapy. 2 to 3 cycles of chemotherapy, 2 or 3 drugs, followed by assessment and followed by surgery. So again, but multimodality treatment. Some cases, just for your distinct knowledge, a tongue, right lateral tongue lesion excised. This is almost a hemiglossectomy if you can see. So we keep almost 1 centimeter margins all around. That is something which is very important to have a margin-free tumor. We have harvested a radial artery forearm flap from the left arm. This is the harvested flap. And this is how it is reconstructed or inset. This is the inset which is done with this tongue defect. This is the anastomosis which we do. The facial artery and the vein is anastomosed with the radial artery and the vein. And this is the closure of the neck. This anastomosis is done after you have done a neck dissection. So once you do a neck dissection, you excise the primary, then you anastomose the vein and the artery here in the neck, and you insert the flap in the oral cavity. This is how the patient is post-operatively. This is how the patient would look. Again, this is typical submucous fibrosis, tumor, restricted mouth opening. This is the surgery, a segmental mandibulectomy, a partial maxillectomy, a neck dissection. This is the specimen. This is called a bite specimen because it involves the retromolar trigone, the posterior segment and of the mandible and the upper alveolus. So this is a bite excision. Anterolateral thigh flap. We take a anterolateral thigh flap. This is how it is harvested, and this is a perforator based flap. So you have perforators which are anastomosed in the neck. This is the outer skin panel which came out, and this is the flap which we have sutured, and this is the skin panel, and inside is the mucosal lining. So this is how the patient would look. The mouth opening has improved. This is the flap, anterolateral flap which is seen, and this is the outer panel. Again, case 3, this is a through and through defect of the mandible coming out of the cheek skin. This is the excision, this is the fibula which we have harvested along with the skin panel. So this is the bone. The bone we have to do 2 osteotomies. So we harvest a full fibula, we do 2 osteotomies, one here and another here. And we plate it with the mandible here, the ascending ramus, and here with the mandible in the midline. This is how the plating is done. And this skin panel goes and lines the floor of mouth and the buccal mucosa. This is how it looks. The lining, outer lining or the outer skin panel, and inside it is lining the buccal mucosa and the floor of mouth. This is how the patient, after post-op radiotherapy, a reasonable mouth opening with a good or a reasonable cosmetic and functional outcome. This is the scar of the fibula or the left lower limb which was harvested. So these were the three cases, only 2 or 3 slides more. So recent advances, if we talk, we are mainly now looking at organ preservation if it is possible. But most of these patients should come in early stage so that we can preserve, maximum of their tongue or buccal mucosa or lip. Microvascular reconstruction, without this, no oral cancer surgery is complete, because you can excise and create a big defect. But till you reconstruct it properly, you will not be able to give a good cosmetic and functional outcome. Transoral laser surgeries, again for early lesions of the oral cavity, both pre-malignant and malignant. Transoral robotic surgery, it is now coming in. Most of the times it is mainly done for oropharyngeal cancers rather than oral cancers. Radiotherapy, you have image-guided radiotherapy, intensity modulated radiotherapy, SRS, SBRT, and now proton therapy. These are all softwares to reduce the side effects of radiotherapy. Chemotherapy, as I told you, neoadjuvant chemotherapy, palliative chemotherapy, and one more is metronomic oral chemotherapy as palliation. Immunotherapy and targeted therapy, I just talk one slide each. Diagnostics, if you say image guided procedure, again is very important. Most of the times for metastatic lung lesions, vertebral lesions, we have to do image guided biopsy to prove whether it is metastatic or not. Rehabilitation, as I talk, prosthetic and dental implant, and speech and swallowing rehabilitation. Something about targeted therapy. These targeted therapies are EGFR inhibitors, mainly by the name of cetuximab. It's a monoclonal antibody to EGFR, and patients with locally advanced disease, when this drug was given, they were randomized into a radiation therapy in conjunction with cetuximab versus radiotherapy alone. And both the progression-free survival and the overall survival improved with this drug. When we say about this improvement, one thing again is very important. These are all drugs which are very costly. When you talk about progression-free and overall survival, the overall survival improves only by 3 to 4 months. You have to remember this. The patients would come and ask you, this are targeted therapy, immunotherapy, the thing is, US and everywhere, they are all very well covered. So there is no, they don't hesitate in taking and giving this therapy. For our patient, it is very important for us to know and explain them whether this 4-month survival is justified or not, taking this medicine. Tata Hospital has now, we have oral tablets, methotrexate, Jeftin, which is just 1 or 2 rupees per day. And they also improve the survival or increase the survival by 3 to 4 months. No need for admission, no need for costly therapy. Just oral metronomic chemotherapy, no side effects, nothing. Improves the overall survival and progression-free survival by 3 to 6 months. So this is just this thing. Most of these are market-driven drugs. So just a word about that. Again, immunotherapy, yes, this is important because this has nothing to do with chemotherapy or treatment of cancer. It improves your immune system. So mainly used for metastatic disease, locally advanced disease, recurrent or persistent disease, and patients who have not or have failed over platinum therapy. This again is important, but again very costly. So this is the end of my list. This is our team. Myself, Dr. Shehnaz, Rakshit is the general oncosurgeon who has joined us. Karthikeya Jain, Dr. Prakash Rathod is